and welcome to this video. In this video we are going to be adding a few more features to our platformer game that we have started using Pygame and object-oriented programming and of course Python. So let me just show you what we did in the previous video. So in the previous video what we did is we added gravity and we also added a moving player. So we had platforms and we also had some gravity. So we had a kind of normal thing with gravity, and we also had realistic movement. So it had a kind of sense of acceleration. We added some acceleration to our player, so it's more realistic movement. And our player can move, of course, as you can see, but it can't jump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding some jump feature to our player. Okay, now the jump feature is actually pretty easy, so it's not too hard, it's not too easy, it's okay. So in our settings I'm going to be adding a player jump variable. I'm going to set this to 20. It would feel pretty high, but actually it isn't. So what we want to do is we're not going to handle the jumping in our update section. We are going to create a separate method for jump. So we're going to say def jump. So we are going to say self.rect.x plus equals 1. And then we're going to say self.rect.x minus equals 1. And then we're going to say self.val.y is equal to minus player jump. Now the reason I did this self.rect.x plus equals 1 and self.rect.x minus equals 1 is so the player doesn't move while they're jumping. They will only move if they want to. So we don't want the player to move by itself when we're jumping. You only want it to move when the player wants to move. So that's our jump, but I'm not going to collapse that. So we are actually going to handle the jumping event in our game loop event handling or process input section. So we are going to say if event.type is equals to pygame.keyDown. So that means if a user has pressed the key, then what we want to do is we have specified the key down, but we want to specify what key is being pressed. So then we need to say if event.key is equals to pygame.k space. So pygame.k space, if it's equal to that key, remember to put a colon. If it's equal to that key, then we say self.player.jump. So basically that's why I created a separate method, so we could call that method in here. So let's see. We'll press the spacebar and it is jumping pretty well. But now you can see we can just jump in the end. We can do that how much we want and not die. So basically it looks like we're flying. This would be pretty good for if you're trying to create a Flappy Bird game, but it's not really good if you're trying to create a platformer, because that would literally just cause the player to cheat whatsoever. So we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure the player does not cheat. Okay, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. There you go. So I was just checking to see if everything was correct. So we only want to jump if the player is standing on a platform. So what we need to do is we need to do the Sprite Collide thing again. So we're going to say hits is equal to pg.sprite collide. And we need to pass in self, which is basically the player. we need to pass in self.game.platforms. So this is the platforms. We don't want the platforms to disappear, otherwise that would just not be fair. So once we have done hit that, and since we only want to jump if we're standing on a platform, we go if hit, and then we just indent this. And also, I was thinking we could set play grab to 0.5. So now let's check it out. So now that is not working. So it says player has no attribute called game. That is because we have not told the player there is anything called game. So in our init, we need to pass in a game over here, a game parameter. And then under the init section, we have to say self.game is equal to game. And now what we need to do is in our main.py, when we create the player, which is here, we need to pass in self. So now we have told the player that there is something called a game. So let's check it out. So now we cannot jump when the player is we cannot jump when the player is in the air, okay? But for some reason our jump is actually pretty small. So let's check why that is actually happening. So I went and looked through and I corrected this first one. So basically if we put this, you can kind of see the players like vibrating on the screen. So what we need to do is we need to put +1, and then it'll be fine. But then we only have a little jump and I don't really like that. So the reason it's doing that, again, I looked through that as well. It took me quite a while to figure out, but it was only a silly mistake. So we need to put self.act.x because we only want friction for the X movement and not the Y movement, and it was doing the Y movement as well, and we don't want that. So now it should be pretty good. Okay, and I also went and changed the player jump to 18 because if we put it to 20 it's a bit too high. So if you check it out, it's actually really high, so I put it on 18 and it came out pretty good. So now we've got that out of the way, we do not need to worry too much anymore. So now you can see that we can't jump in the air, so it's pretty good. And also I want to do another thing, and this is just some sort of logic code. So we only want to hit a platform when we're falling. Okay, because sometimes, if I show you, if I go down here, it snaps you to the top, but when we're not really landing on it. So we only want to snap to it when we are falling. So we are going to, here I'm going to write check if player hits a platform only if falling. Okay, here we are going to say if self.player.val.y is greater than 0. So that basically means if it is going up, then this will happen. But we need to indent this because it's in line with here, but we don't want that to happen. We want it to stay in line with the correct thing. So let's see. Okay, so it didn't really make much difference. So now instead of snapping to the top, what it's actually doing is it's going through and then it's landing. So that's actually a pretty good outcome. That's what I wanted. So now what we can do is we can add some sort of scrolling, and we can now add infinity platforms. But first we're just going to add a few platforms for now. So in our settings, I'm going to add a section called starting platforms. So we're going to create some platforms that will stay there, they will be in the same position when the game starts. Okay, so I'm only going to put about like 5 platforms on the screen that will be in the same position when the game starts. Okay, so I'm going to create a platform list. Okay, we're going to make this equal to, so the first platform will be at x0. So this is going to be the ground platform. It's going to be height minus 40. We could have just copied and pasted, but I'm going to write it again. For some reason, I just like typing a lot. So, and then I'm going to say width, because we want it to spread across the bottom of the screen, and the height we're going to put 40. And after that, I am going to put the second platform, which is going to be this middle platform over here. So let's just copy that one actually. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this first platform away. I'm going to just copy this and then take away this whole section, and that should be fine. Now we can go to our settings and copy that and paste that. And then I'm going to add 3 more platforms. Okay, so we're going to put 125. You can play around with the heights and widths and x's and y's if you like, but I'm just going to put at these ones. So the platforms that are in the air, I'm going to put them all with a height of 20. So next one, I'm going to put 350, 200. So make sure you don't get mixed up with the parameters, because after all it can get quite confusing. So 350, 200, 100, 20. And then last platform, we are going to put it at 175 for X. So this will be the highest platform. 100 for Y, and then 50 for width and 20 for height. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to iterate through this list and add a platform, add each of those platforms. So that is not going to be too hard, because we just need to do it with a for loop. So we need to say for plat, so that's just short for platform. So for platform list, and we have to put spaces where needed. P is equal to platform, and then we are going to put in plat, but then we are going to put this asterisk here. So I'm just going to correct that. We already iterated, so why do we need to explode this? Well, if we go to our sprites here, let me collapse that. If we go to our platform, you see we hold X, Y, width, and height. So that is what each element in these tiny tuples are. But we want to get those tiny elements. So we explode that plat altogether and get tiny elements and put them in the thing. So after that, we say self.allSprites.add. So now we can just add P to those, and then self.platforms.add. We're going to add P to that. So let's check out these platforms. That has given us an error. Game object has no attribute platforms. I keep on mixing up the R's and O's. Sorry about that. So now we've got some nice platforms. I am jumping a bit too high. So maybe I might set my jump to 16 actually, because it is actually going pretty high, and we haven't got any scrolling yet, so that is why I'm going to set the jump to 16. So let's just check it out again. There you go, that's fine, that's decent. So now we want to scroll the screen. Now, Pygame doesn't have anything called a camera, so we can't do anything like moving a camera up. So what we need to do is we want to make it look like it's actually scrolling when it's not. So we need to move we need to move everything down. We need to move all the sprites down, including the player. So we are going to do this when the player hits the top 1/4 of the screen, okay? Because we don't want to do it when they're at the bottom. That would be ridiculous. So that's why we're going to do it when the player reaches the top 1/4 of the screen. So I'm going to write here, if player reaches top 1/4 of the screen, then what do we want to do? So as I told you, we're going to move all the sprites down. So we're going to say if self.player.rect.top, because again it is the top 1/4, if it is smaller than or equal to height over 4, so then we can get a 1/4 from that result. Then we're going to say self.player.pos.y, so the y position, plus equals the absolute, or you can call it non-negative, but I'm calling it absolute value of self.player.val.y. So the reason I've done this is we're moving it by the absolute value or the non-negative value, because since it is moving up, it needs to go, since it's moving up, it needs to do plus equals. And we're not going to add negative numbers, we're going to add positive numbers. So we want to do it by the player val.y, because we want to move up at the correct speed and make sure it's not too fast for the player and it's not too slow. So we'll do it at the player speed. And then we want to move the platforms down. So we're going to say for plat in, and again put your spaces where appropriate. For plat in self.plat platforms. So for every platform in our self.platform sprite group, we're going to say plat.rect.y. Plat.rect.y plus equals the absolute value of self.player.val.y. Okay, so that let's check it out. So now it is scrolling. So yeah, that is working. I can't reach the top 1/4 now because there's no more platforms to jump on. So we are going to add some infinity platforms. But before that, we are going to say if plat.rect.top is greater than or equal to height, then what we're going to do is we're going to say plat.kill. So we're going to make it disappear so the player cannot jump on it again, because after all, this is a platformer and the platforms will go keep on disappearing. If they're not on the screen, we want them to disappear. This will also benefit the speed of our game, because if there's so many platforms all the way at the bottom of the screen that we can't calculate because they're not on the screen, then it's going to give the game some lag. So it's going to make the game slow, because there's so many calculations that we don't need that are happening all at once. It's going to give the game lag. Okay, so this is so we can maintain that by killing it. So it should now be killing the platforms. So if I go down and try to jump, there are no platforms there to land on, so that is good. So we want to add some infinity platforms now. So we are going to be adding platforms. We're going to have an average number of platforms that we want on the screen. So because in our platform list over here we had about 5 platforms, I'm going to set the average to 6. So there's at least 6 platforms on the screen. So we're going to say while length. So while the length of self.platforms is smaller than 6. So if it's equal to 6, then we don't need to add platforms. But if it isn't, then we do. We're going to say width. So this is going to be the width of our platforms. We're going to set this to a random number. So random.randrange. So remember, we want the sense of natural kind of thing. So we put random.randrange between 50 and 100. So we don't want it too skinny. We don't want it too big. So we're going to put it between 50 and 100. So we're going to say P is equal to a platform. And so we are going to position it at random.randrange. We're going to position it at 0. So between these ranges, 0 or width minus width, because we don't want the platforms to appear off the screen. We're going to make sure they're still on the screen. So that's the x coordinate. We want to add the y coordinate, which is random.randrange. It will be about at minus 75 or minus 30. So we're going to make this appear above the screen, so they're ready when the player is scrolling. And then we're going to put the width, which is going to be width, and the height, all of them are going to set to 20. So we need to add the platform, we need to add P to the platform. So we're going to say self.platforms.add. We're going to add P, and then we're going to say self.platforms.add P. And it's not platforms over here, sorry. It's all sprites, okay? So let's see if it generates infinity platforms. So we're scrolling up. There we go. So now we have our infinity platforms that are very thin. So let me just check to see if we put the width correctly. Yes, we did. Okay, so it's just because it's just our luck that it's coming really thin like that. But don't worry, it's fine. So yeah, now we've got infinity platforms. That's pretty good now. But now, if I just show you one thing, so let me just go a bit high. So if we go down, we can't really start the game again. So we're going to add game over and start screens now. But before that, we're going to add a score. So in our new, every time we're going to set the score to 0. Okay, because it is a new game after all. And I was thinking that we could increase the score every time we scrolled the screen. So I'm going to say self.score plus equals 5. So in our new, we need to write self.score over here. So self.score. And there we go. So now we need to display this score. So we should do this in draw, because this is while the game is running. We need to do it there, okay? So what we can do is we can do it in here. We can do it in here, but it does take quite a lot of code to draw some text. So we're going to create a method, so we don't need to keep on writing that code over and over again. So I'm going to call this method draw text, and we're going to use the classic way to draw text using Pygame. So we are going to put in some parameters. So we're going to put the text you want to draw, the size of the text, and the color of the text, the x position, and the y position. Okay, so those are the parameters we are going to need to position, draw, and display our text. So we're going to say font is equal to pg.font.font. Okay, so not pg, pygame.font.font. Now self.font name. Now we don't have these, but I'm going to write these here. So our font name is basically a font we have. Now I have a font called bubblyfont.ttf, so it's called bubblyfont.ttf, and I've got it right here. So bubblyfont.ttf. You can't really open it right now because PyCharm doesn't really support it, but it's called bubblyfont.ttf. So I'm going to put font is equal to bubblyfont.ttf. Okay, so that is what I'm going to put the font. So yeah, that's what my font is called. So basically here I don't need to put self.font name. I can just put in font because it's straight from my settings. So what I need to do now is I need to create a text surface. So where can I blip my text? I need to make a text surface so I can blip my text onto that surface. So I'm going to say text surface is equal to font.render. So rendering the font. What text do we want to render? So we're going to render the text that the user passes in. So the true is for anti-aliasing, and then we need to put in the color we want to render it in. So that's what we want, and then we're going to create a text rect so we can move it around if we want, and we can also blit it onto a screen. So we're going to say text surface dot get rect. So simple as that. You just need to call the get rect method, and then we can say text dot rect dot mid top is equal to x y, and we have to say text rect dot mid top. And then after we have done that, we need to say self dot screen dot blit text surface. So we need to blit text surface, and we want to blit the text rect as well. Okay, so now once we have done that, we can now call that method and draw the score onto our screen. So I already know I'm going to position it, so I'm going to say self.draw text. I'm going to draw this text, so I'm going to put the score and the writing indicating that it's the score separately, because the score might if you put the score along with the writing, then it might move this writing back. That's why I'm not going to do it. So I want it size 22. I'm going to put it in black so we can see it amongst everything else. I'm going to put it at width over 2 minus 190. So this is the Y. And then I'm going to put so this is the Y actually. This is the Y and this is the X. So this is the X coordinate, this is the Y coordinate. And then I'm going to draw the score I'll actually duplicate this line. So I'm going to draw the string version of the score, because right now the score is an integer. So I'm going to draw the string version of self.score. Okay. I'm going to put this size 22. I'm going to put this at width over 2 minus 120. It'll actually look pretty good. So now let's see. So that is giving us an error now. Pygame.rect has no attribute rect. So text.rect, textrect.midtop. So that's Fine. So right now you cannot see the score because the background is black. So we're going to change the background. But I also want to add a variable called self.bg color here. And we're going to set this to a light blue. Okay, so this light blue is, I'm going to put it in my settings. So I'm going to say light blue is equal to, it is about 155 red and 200 blue. So, and it has actually no green in it, I believe. So this is light blue. We need to fill the screen with self.bg color. So let's check it out. There we go. So that's a nice color. And now you can see score is equal to 0 right now. So I'm just going to collapse this in it and then we'll check it. So let's see if the score increases. So yes, it does increase. So it increases every time we scroll. So yeah. Oops, let's scroll. There we go. So there we go. So that is working. So that is working now. Now we can start doing our game start screen and game end screen. So we can do a start screen easily now using the draw text function we made. And that should be pretty good. So we want to fill the screen with our BG color. So self.screen is equal self.screen.fill, and we're going to fill it with self.bg color. Okay, because we don't want the user to see the game before they've started. So after we've done that, we're going to say self.drawText. So I'm going to draw the title because we already have that variable, so I'm just going to draw it the title because our title is Infinity Jump. So I'm going to put the size 48. I'm actually going to put this white now because there's nothing there to overlap it. I'm going to position this in the middle for the X coordinate, and then for height I'm going to do at the top fourth of the screen. Yeah, about the top fourth of the screen. And then we are going to I'm going to draw another piece of text saying self.draw text. I am going to draw like a little preview of what you have to do in the game. So what I mean by this is by writing arrows, use the arrows to move and the space bar to jump. Okay, so now the user will know what they need to do in order to play the game. So I'm going to put the size 22. I'm going to put this at white. I'm going to put this at width over 2, height over 2. So this should be in the middle of the screen. And then, yeah, so let's actually check it out first. Whoops. So this is not showing. So let's check. So, okay, so first let's just finish this up first and then we can check. So, after that, I'm going to say self.drawText, and then I'm going to put press a key to play. Okay, so I'm going to put the size 22 as well. White. I'm going to put width over 2 and height times 3 over 4. And then, because if we want it to stay on the screen, we need to say Pygame. We need to say Pygame.display.flip, and it should stay on the screen. Okay, so as you can see, it is just staying on the screen for, like, it's only just staying on the screen going, that's it. Okay, so we need to add some sort of function that will let the start screen only take them to the actual game when once they have pressed the key. So that is why I wrote press the key to play. So before the draw text, I'm going to create a method called wait for key. Okay, so this is a wait for key method, and it's not going to be too hard though. So we're going to say waiting is equal to true, and then we're going to say while waiting and self.play while waiting, so while waiting and not self.playing. Actually, let's ignore that bit for now. So while waiting, we want it to tick at the right speed, right? So self.clock.tick. We're going to tick it at the frames per second in our settings. So we want to do some event handling here as well, because if the user presses the cross button, then we want to make sure that it exits. Okay, we don't want them to get pranked and then say, no, you cannot close the window. So we're going to say for event in Pygame, Pygame.event.get. So for every event in Pygame.event.get, we're going to say if event.type is equal to Pygame.quit, and make sure you put equals equals and not just one equal sign. If it's equal to Pygame.quit, then we're going to say waiting is equal to false, and then we're going to set self.running is equal to false, and before that we are going to say if self.playing is equal to false. So we want to set self.playing to false as well. And then now we want to determine whether the user presses a key. So we are going to say if event.type is equals to Pygame.keyUp. So that means if the user has pressed and let go of a key, then we're going to set waiting is equal to false. Okay, so let's now we need to call this wait for key in our show start screen. So I'm going to say self.wait for key. So now you can see that worked, but this is kind of out of place. So I'm going to, in our show start screen, we are going to put this to at least 70. There we go, so that is good. And then I'm going to let's just see what's the matter with everything else. So use the errors, and we can press a key to play way bigger. So we can put it at probably 50. That is actually very big. Let's do it at 30. Still small. So I'm just going to tweak everything and then get it to work, and then I'm going to come back. So I tweaked it around a bit and I put this in all caps because it looks a bit better now, and I put it how I wanted. So now if we just check this out, if we press the key, it is working now, and we can then go on to a game. So now we want to add a game over feature, but we don't only want to add a game over screen. So when the player falls off, we're going to add some sort of scrolling effect so it looks like it's actually falling. And then we're going to put the game over screen. So what we need to do is in our update section over here, not event, sorry, update section, where is it? There we go, it's right here. So in our update section, we are going to be adding a little section over here called player death. Okay, so that's basically if the player dies. And also let's just add a few comments here to keep it a bit communicative. So here what we did is we added more platforms to keep same average. So basically to keep the same average number of platforms on the screen. And that's okay. So player death, what do we want to do when the player falls off the screen? So we're going to say if self.player.rect.bottom, so if the bottom of the player is if it is greater than height, so that basically means if it is if the bottom of the player has gone off the screen, then we are going to say we want to move all the sprites up but not the player. So we're going to say for sprite in self.allSprites, actually we might actually move all the sprites up including the player, so it's giving a scrolling effect. So we're going to say sprite.rect.y minus equals, so we're going to make it go up. It's going to doing minus equals the maximum value of self.player.fell.y. So we're not adding the we're not going to add the absolute value, or adding the maximum value, because it's going to give more of a sense of naturalness, because you'll fall faster if you're falling from a higher place. So that's why we put maximum value. And then we're going to say if sprite.rect.bottom is smaller, if sprite.rect.bottom is smaller than 0, then we're going to kill the sprite. So sprite.kill. And now we need to add the condition for showing the game over screen. So we're going to say if the length of self.platforms, if the length is equals to 0, so if there are no more platforms in the platform list, then we're going to set self.playing, not running, to false. So we only want to set self.playing to false. So now that should work. So let's fall off. So it just started all over again. Because we haven't actually added anything to our game over screen, so that's why it started all over again. So we need to add the game over screen, right? So what we need to do is I am going to say if not self.running, so if self.running is not equal to true, we want to so we want to make sure we do not display this game over screen. So we're going to say self.screen.fill. We want to fill it with self.bg color. And then I'm going to draw some text. So I'm going to say self.draw text. I am going to draw this text. So I'm going to put game over in all caps with an exclamation mark at the end. I'm going to put this size 80 so it's a bit bigger. I'm going to put this color white. I'm going to say width. So I'm going to put this at width over 2. So it's going to be in the middle along the x-axis. And height over 4. So that will be at the top fourth of the screen. And then we are going to draw more text. So I'm going to say self.drawText. I'm going to show the user their score. So I'm going to say score. I can concatenate this with the string value because it's not going to affect anything. So I'm going to concatenate this with the string value of self.score. I'm going to put it at size 30. I'm going to put this white. And then I'm going to put width over 2. And then height over 2. So this will be right in the middle. And then we're going to draw some more text. So self.drawText. I'm going to say press a key to play again. Okay, so press a key to play again. So we're going to put this at size 35. I'm going to put this white. I'm going to put this at width over 2, so in the middle for the x-axis. And then height over 3 divided by 4. So it's a little bit above the bottom of the screen. And then we need to say pygame.display.flip. And then we need to call the wait for key. So self.wait for key. So let's check it out now. So we'll start, we'll just go a bit high and then go. And now it goes to game over and we can keep on doing it now. So that is working. And basically that's all I wanted to do for this video, because this video is getting pretty long. It's not 1 hour, but it's still pretty long. So in the next video, we're going to be adding some graphics and animation. It's going to be pretty exciting. So that's what we're going to be adding in the next video. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and it would mean a lot to me. If you have any comments or doubts, please comment them in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, I guess that's the end of this video. Please look out for my next video, and I guess that's it. Bye!